The image of homelessness used to be seen as sunken-cheeked men arguing against imaginary voices, their weathered faces worn from years of drug and alcohol abuse. Others struggling with mental illness with nowhere and no one to turn to. This image has been given the title homeless, but the face and struggles have recently changed. The new face of homelessness is not seen begging on street corners, but walks among the streets with the businessmen and women. The current economic downturn, unlike others in the past, is not just hurting the already poor, but also people who were considered safe and well off. These once middle-class people now have been tossed into desperation. Millions of people who are living the American dream as homeowners are heading for the street. What began as a crisis in the housing market has become a crisis in the labor market. This crisis in the labor market, in turn, is further depressing the housing market. This endless cycle will take more than a government handout to resolve. The sharp decline in the labor market has left the unemployment rate at nearly 10%. This steep percentile leaves millions of Americans jobless, struggling to make ends meet. Not only are homeowners at risk of losing their houses, but tenants also fear of losing their homes as well. Soup kitchens and homeless shelters have seen a drastic increase in occupants. In many cases, shelters are having to turn families away due to overcapacity of their facilities. Because of this, individuals must leave shelters at a certain time in the morning and may not return until a certain time at night. These individuals have nowhere to go to throughout the day to escape the harsh environmental conditions. By the time a family shows up in a shelter, they've done everything possible to avoid homelessness. Many families try to stay with friends and family members. They often go without food and sell their worldly possessions. They've expended every financial and social resource they have. As families across the nation are struggling to pay bills and keep a roof over their heads, homeless shelters as well as other organizations are struggling to provide shelter for the homeless. Research shows there has been a significant drop in the amount of donations received due to the economic state. People cannot afford themselves as well as the rest of the nation. Families make up 34% of the homeless population, and 1 in every 50 children is homeless in America. Children often move from school district to school district, sometimes several times a year, which makes it even harder for them to focus on academics with a stressful living situation. Young homeless children have more developmental delays, anxiety, depression, and behavioral issues compared to their peers living in a stable housing environment. This can greatly impact their future and dampens their social skills as well as their academic futures. Poverty and homelessness are a dreary cycle that is hard to break free from. The $787 billion economic stimulus package includes $1.5 billion to address the problem, but officials say it's not enough to cover the cost of housing for millions of families. People can no longer ignore the issue of homelessness. We cannot pretend that homelessness does not exist.